Probably the largest single threat to Canada is the ungoverned, those poor desperate people tucked up against the Turkish border who, if they get the sense of abandonment and get frustrated and get panicky, even more so than they are now, that will act as a fertile breeding ground for the next wave of fundamentalists who may decide to do unpleasant things to those around them or to us.
Are you actually saying that the greatest threat to Canada is the refugees, not the terrorist group ISIS?
No,
because
absolutely.
you said that is the potential bigger threat.
If left ungoverned, if left unhelped,
Seems
if you
to me
would,
that the people beheading might be the bigger threat.
they are in the short term.
This man was a general. Well done, Evan. Long-term friend, he's a good guy. Good, you actually followed up with this man. General Andrew Leslie, a senior Liberal and Justin Trudeau partisan and advisor, thinks that fleeing Kurds and various moderate Muslims and Christians who are running away from ISIS in terror might become fundamentalist murderers if we abandon them. What? Colonel Michel Drapeau served 34 years in the military. He's an expert in many issues. He joins us now from Ottawa. So I'm not here, I don't know the General, I'm not here to bash him, but for goodness sake, that was a statement that was infantile. It was so crass, it was so callow.
Incomprehensible, really. When I heard of it, my reaction then was, he must be having something in his coffee. I mean, I can't believe that a soldier like him, a very good record of service in the military as a senior gunner, but more important as the head of the Canadian Army, would feel this way. The threat is now, the threat is not in 20 years or 30 years. It's not about refugees, about individuals who bear arms, individuals who commit crimes, individuals who are acting as barbarous fellows against humanity. Yeah. I mean, and the only way you can put them down is to use weapons and to use armed forces and to make sure, in fact, they are taken out as quickly and as effectively as we can.
Yeah. I can only assume he doesn't understand the situation. The people who are fleeing, and it's very insulting to say they may become fundamentalist murderers unless we help them. First of all, we are helping them. Second, these are people who do not want to act in a barbaric manner. Quite a few of them, by the way, are from minorities within Islam or Christian or Kurds. They're running because they will be slaughtered, whatever happens. Seems to me, though, he's trying to find a way to justify the liberal approach, which is saying we have to provide support for refugees. Well, we do that, we want to do that, but we can't get to them unless we defeat those who want to murder them.
Yeah, well, I mean, his explanation may be colored by a partisan liberal leader. Well, that's fine. Okay, but at least be clear about it. I mean, the threat is now, Canada is being asked to play a part. Canada is asked, in fact, to come to war together with its allies in order to put this threat down. Refugees is another issue. I'm not, as I said last night, I'm not against augmenting the kind of support that we can provide to them. But don't shift the channel here. The threat is there now, and there's no denying it, and I don't really care what the Liberal Party position is. That doesn't make sense. And it certainly doesn't make sense from a career soldier who can clearly, better than anybody else, see the threat, see the necessity to act upon it.
Now, I imagine he made this up as he was going along. It wasn't policy as such. He was trying, as I mentioned earlier, to somehow justify the Liberal position, which is very ambivalent, if not schizophrenic. And it seems to change depending on which hour and which day. But when, and with all due respect to Evan Solomon, who's a good fellow, when even a CBC host looks incredulous and says, "What do you mean?" You realize at that point that the Liberals are in a bit of a mess.
Well, they are. I mean, they really are. When their senior strategic and military advisor is incoherent, I mean, let's call a spade, incoherent, because it doesn't, I cannot follow him. I'm not hostile to him. I have a lot of respect for him. I know that he has excellent record of service, as I said. Yeah. And still, I just don't understand. I can't follow his logic there. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. Now, I know that may well be the Liberal policy. That's the only explanation that we can have for it. He's speaking and trying to speak within a very narrow corridor set for him by his boss. But be that as it may, it doesn't make it logical, doesn't make it understandable by the common folks. It simply doesn't.
Now, let's just go a little beyond that to the overall Liberal policy on the crisis. Mark Garneau, who again is a sophisticated man, an impressive man, seems to be changing his views, as does the entire Liberal Party, on our military response to ISIS. Let's hear a little bit of what he had to say.
We will, of course, support what is eventually decided by the government, because we know that we're sending our men and women into combat. Once the decision is made by the government of Canada and our men and women are out there, we have to be supportive. That's the right thing to do. It isn't what we would have chosen.
I still don't know what the Liberal Party policy is regarding what is happening to people in Syria and Iraq and the advance of ISIS. Do you?
No, I don't. I really don't. Even try as I might, there seem to be more against everything than for anything. That decision is not something that you don't require to have a PhD in science in order to determine that we, Canada, have a threat within our own border. There are some individuals being recruited in our mosque and in our streets and are part of this ISIS movement. So there's something, in fact, there is a connection there. There is a proximity of the threat to ourselves. Some of these individuals would come back to Canada. So it's not as if we can ignore it. It is within our border itself. And the way to get across to it is to join the 60 other nations that have decided to step up to the plate. It doesn't cost very much to do so, and it doesn't mean that the risk will be immense. I mean, we had more risk while serving in Afghanistan than sending 6 fighters over there now, but at the very least, out of solidarity, we will be moving with our allies, and we will see things come in and perhaps take even more aggressive, even more armed forces deployed in order to put and to resist that particular threat. That's what's coming. So if the Liberals cannot even see this now, when the going is relatively easy, the decision even easier to make, I kind of wonder if the situation were to deteriorate, which there's a likelihood it might, or at least not ameliorate, then where are they going to be?
Yes. And bear in mind that the people out there have promised to slaughter Canadians in their beds. So in effect, they have declared war on us. Sir, Colonel, a great pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye now.
Let us know what you think. Email me at thearena@sunmedia.ca, or you find me on Twitter. The handle, as my children tell me, it's @Michael Curran. More on The Arena coming up.